We are now in part 3 of our lectures on Mill. Here we're going to discuss that higher faculties equals higher happiness and higher suffering. Also, we're going to discuss human dignity as Mill conceives of it, and that people by nature desire the activities of higher faculties. Mill brings to our attention that higher faculties mean that we are capable of great pleasures as well as of great suffering. The more you can think, imagine, feel, the deeper is your sense of all that is great as well as horrible about the world. The deeper is that sense. And so the deeper is the happiness and the deeper is the suffering. Still, Mill argues that we would not trade a life of a human being that experiences both happiness and suffering profoundly for a life of a pig that is kept in a happy condition all their life. Happiness that is much less profound, much lower in quality, since the pig does not have imagination, intellect, feeling, and social affect. And so a human being that experiences both happiness and suffering to a much deeper level than a pig does. Even a pig that only experiences happiness, a human being would not choose the life of a pig over that of a human. This reflects a sense of our human dignity, as Mill conceives of it. Mill, too, speaks of dignity as Kant does, but in a very different sense. We can learn to cope with and tolerate suffering for the sake of experiencing greater happiness. Furthermore, as civilization progresses, we develop technology and social institutions due to which we experience less and less suffering than our predecessors did. Mill argues that by nature, each one of us desires as high a pleasure as we can get, as much engagement of our intellect, imagination, feeling, and social affect as is possible. But how does he then explain that there are people who immerse themselves in lower pleasures that engage not much of their intellect, imagination, feeling, and social affect? Mill argues that the less one uses one's higher faculties, the duller they become, and the more one uses lower faculties, the more compelling they become. Over time, with such practice of lower faculties, one begins to prefer lower pleasures and loses the almost innate taste for higher pleasures. This happens due to accidents of one's environment, inappropriate role models, lack of access to education, lack of access to good work, lack of access to leisure time away from work for developing one's abilities, lack of opportunities and resources in the environment to develop these abilities, etc. These accidents are unfortunate and rob persons of greater quality of happiness in their life. And as we will discuss later, morality requires that we change these circumstances for the better.